Hello and welcome back to Exothermic Plays Games. I'm Exothermic and the date today is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. I've been doing a countdown of my favorite video games of all time through each day of the year, and coming in at number 231 is Hand of Fate. Hand of Fate is a roguelite storytelling combat deck building game, so in other words, it's a little hard to label. But if you put all of the time spent in the game into a hat and drew blindly from it, you might not believe me about the combat part. You're playing against a mysterious man referred to simply as the Dealer, who seems to hold absolute power over your life and many others through magical cards and tokens that he creates. Pick a boss you'll fight against at the end and go along with his almost choose-your-own-adventure style card game. He deals each area out as a path of cards, and you can move about them one at a time, consuming food each time you do. Whatever card you land on will give you a prompt. This could be as simple as going to a store, answering a yes or no question, or engaging in an entire conversation. Some answers you give will modify the remaining deck of cards, your remaining health, food, gold, things like that, or create additional encounters on the current map. For example, you might need to deliver valuable gear to someone else a few cards away, but you could opt to just keep them and live with those consequences. Your character can equip various pieces of gear, and depending on which boss you've picked, you may have curses against you. But on the flip side of that, helping others may generate boons and blessings that will aid you in your travels. Blessings are random passive effects that, unlike equipment, you can gain any number of and use them all simultaneously. On the other hand, those curses I mentioned behave much the same, but with negative effects. You do have to be careful with your generosity, however, as if you run out of food, you'll start losing health, and fast, each time you move around. Often, you will be prompted with a challenge of sorts from the world cards as you navigate throughout them. Sometimes you're given a choice, sometimes not, but if you do engage with a challenge, 4 cards are displayed. There's Huge Failure, Failure, Success, and Huge Success. They can show up in any combination, depending on how difficult the challenge is, but then after they're revealed, they get flipped back over and shuffled. As far as I can tell, they actually do follow the animation, so you can somewhat track the movement of the cards as they get shuffled a couple of times. Pick one and hope you followed along correctly. As I mentioned, the vast majority of gameplay is spent outside of combat, but that doesn't mean the fights aren't important. Yourself and enemies spawn from the cards, which is pretty cool, and then duke it out. In addition to your weapon and shield, you can have one spell equipped, and some weapons also have special abilities. I prefer to play the game with a controller, so the abilities are on the right and left bumpers, attacks on X, dodges on A, and counter is on Y. When you see a green symbol above your head, press the counter button to sidestep melee attacks and crack back, or deflect ranged attacks back at them. A red symbol above an enemy means that cannot be countered and will hit hard, so dodge out of those. There's a number of reasons you might find yourself in combat, from story prompts to treasure delving, but ultimately you'll do at least one fight in each playthrough of the game, because you have to select an end boss to start it up. Beat that boss, in this case the King of Skulls, and you'll clear the level. Win or lose, you may unlock additional cards that get added to various decks based on decisions you've made. But if you do win, you'll unlock plenty of new things to run into. The bosses are laid out in a grid, and when you clear a row, you'll gain an artifact of power, adding many more blessings and curses to those decks, as well as unlock the next row to pick from in order to keep adding more and more variables as you keep progressing into the game. Hand of Fate is just oozing with theme, making the cards feel tangible and relevant at every step of the game, from the way you navigate through them, to the way various elements of the game are randomized, and all the way down to how you spawn into the world. There's a lot of replayability to be had, and it's great to adjust your strategy based on how random events unfold, and the gear you're able to find, or the enemies you know you'll encounter, such as the boss you picked. The combat is simple but engaging, which pairs well with its rarity. The emphasis on storytelling, and specifically crafting your own story with each playthrough, is impeccable, with the excellent narration from the Dealer stitching everything together. Join me tomorrow as I talk about the 230th game on my list, where I came for the combat and stayed for the minigames.